Ini Mochi, pelajar tahun 2 dan penggemar kopi. Ketika ini, dia sedang sibuk belajar untuk peperiksaan akhir yang akan dijalankan pada esok hari. Ketika belajar, dia terlihat sebuah iklan kopi dan membuatkannya teringin untuk membeli kopi tersebut. Asalnya, dia hanya membeli satu gelas kopi. Setelah beberapa minit, dia berjaya untuk menghabiskan segelas kopi tersebut dan membuatkan dia membeli gelas yang kedua. Seterusnya, dia tambah lagi, dan tanpa disedari, ketagihan Mochi terhadap kopi bertambah teruk. Dan lebih parah lagi, keesokan harinya, iaitu ketika hari peperiksaan sedang dijalankan, Dr. Rozani datang dan menanyakan tentang keadaan Mochi. Dan Mochi akhirnya mengaku bahawa dia berasa sangat sakit kepala akibat tidak cukup tidur serta sakit perut yang keterlaluan. Setelah tamat peperiksaan, sesuatu telah berlaku. Video sebentar tadi telah menunjukkan kesan ketagihan kafein. Jadi, bagaimanakah ianya boleh berlaku? Saksikan video ini dengan lebih lanjut untuk menahu keterangan seterusnya.
So what is actually contained in those cups that everyone seems to be chugging down most hours of the day? Caffeine is a bitter white crystalline alkaloid. The stimulant chemical is also known as caffeine, theanine, matin, guanine, or methyltheobromine. Many consider caffeine a miracle drug, however the FDA currently holds no regulations on caffeine, therefore it is still legal. Caffeine is also the world's most widely consumed psychoactive drug, causing most stimulation in the central nervous system.
Kebanyakan yang terlibat dalam penggunaan kafein ini adalah di kalangan remaja, iaitu di kalangan pelajar. Berikut merupakan video temu bual yang telah dilakukan oleh beberapa orang pelajar di sekitar universiti.
Sangat-sangat.
Biasa.
Boleh katakan saya setiap hari akan minum kopi.
Dalam masa seminggu mungkin 1-2 hari. Jadi dalam masa sehari tu tak ada, kadang-kadang tak minum langsung pun.
Kalau ikut akan satu tin untuk satu hari. Sangat-sangat tak selesa sebab saya rasa macam saya tak boleh hidup dengan kopi. Yes. Tak ada jual segantung je lah. Bagi saya rasa teh pun ada caffeine, so I guess. And baru-baru ni saya berbaca yang kek coklat pun ada caffeine juga. Yang saya tahu pink.
Finland is the world champion coffee drinking country. Their per capita consumption is twice that of Italy, 3 times that of the US, and 10 times as much as Mexico. And look how well Finland is doing overall. They're like the best country. That doesn't mean caffeine is totally safe.
The average Canadian drinks about 2.8 cups of coffee daily, with 65% of our population being consistent coffee drinkers. Caffeine is found in many beverages that we consume daily, such as soda, energy drinks, teas, and the most obvious being coffee. From the graph above, you can see that coffee and energy drinks have the highest peak in milligram of caffeine per cup.
High adenosine levels in the brain indicate that the brain has been very active and needs to rest, so adenosine will make you fall asleep. Specifically, adenosine has 2 effects depending on what type of adenosine receptor it activates. If adenosine activates an A1 receptor, which are found on neurons that keep the brain awake, those neurons become less active. If adenosine activates an A2A receptor, which are found on neurons that initiate sleep, those neurons become more active. The combined activation of these two receptors, a weaker wake signal and a stronger sleep signal, as well as a variety of other hormones, are responsible for making you fall asleep. During sleep, the brain can replenish its energy reserves and begins to eliminate adenosine. Eventually, not enough adenosine is left in the brain to activate adenosine receptors, so you wake up feeling refreshed. The structures of caffeine and adenosine are very similar, which means that caffeine can also bind to adenosine receptors. However, since adenosine and caffeine are not exactly the same, caffeine cannot activate those receptors. All it does is compete with adenosine for the receptors, making it more difficult for adenosine to activate those receptors to cause sleepiness. This is how caffeine makes you feel more alert, essentially by decreasing the sensitivity of your neurons to adenosine. Caffeine's effect only lasts for 2 to 4 hours though, depending on how fast your body breaks down caffeine, which is mainly determined by genetics. Once your body breaks down the caffeine, adenosine can once again bind easily to its receptors to cause sleepiness. You may have started with drinking 1 cup of coffee a day, and eventually moved on to 3 or 4 a day to have the same feeling of alertness. This is known as caffeine tolerance and often happens to people who are chronic coffee drinkers. Some users may experience withdrawal symptoms such as fatigue, drowsiness, difficulty concentrating, and irritability, the opposite of caffeine's effects. Children should avoid caffeine, as it is still unknown what kind of effects caffeine has on a developing brain. And if you are constantly using caffeine to avoid sleep, stop. Adequate sleep and rest are important for healthy brain function. Even more interesting is that recent research has found that moderate daily caffeine intake seems to prevent various neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. It is truly exciting that such a common drug like caffeine may be the key to preventing the devastating neurodegenerative diseases that are affecting so many people right now.